Pause. I'm so sorry. There was a glitch. We are now going live. I'm really sorry.
Okay.
But
Wait, is she ready?
I do what?
Are you ready?
No, I'll let you know. There are always technical difficulties. All right, we're live now.
Hello, buddy. Boy, I work for partnership for people with disabilities. But just
Always technical difficulties.
but
All right,
first,
we're live now.
Stop. Are we stopped? Hello, my name is Jack Brandt, and I work for the Partnership for People with Disabilities at Virginia Commonwealth University.
it's
Sheila is here today to help with communication. Thank you for joining us for the interactive talk today.
I told you that I'm with disabilities all 18 was scientific by President George H.W.
30 years ago, on July 26, 1990, the Americans with Disabilities Act, or ADA, was signed into law by President George H.W. Bush.
People with disabilities for favorable war formation.
People with disabilities played a pivotal role in the formation of the ADA.
From just not advocates to people with payment unable
From Justin Dart's Advocacy, people with disabilities getting out of their wheelchairs and crawling and pulling themselves up the U.S. Capitol steps.
that we are leaders such honest one we back renewable general any other that I would have found this abilities create more space where people live.
Today we have leaders such as Alice Wong, Rebecca Coakley, Leroy Moore Jr., and many others that are redefining disability by creating more inclusive spaces where people live.
In 2019, the National Collaborative on Workable and Disability Policy is available for success for the judges.
In 2019, the National Collaborative on Workforce and Disabilities for Youth issued a framework for successful youth transition to adulthood.
The framework recognizes
The framework recognizes youth development and leadership.
one of the guidelines advocates our department and one type that
One of the guideposts is self-efficacy or belief in one's capabilities.
that starts with that.
This starts with families.
In today's discussion, we will talk about how this board audience lead with disability and the things that majority people with disability have.
In today's discussion, we will talk about how to support our youth leaders with disabilities and the tension that can occur between people with disabilities and their families.
I transgender state leader.
As Justin Dart stated, lead on.
Thank you, Jack. For everyone joining us, this is a co-live with the Center for Disability Leadership and the Center for Family Involvement. We're celebrating the 30th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act, and we are talking to everyone about how to be a leader. My name is Erin Croyle. I am the communications specialist for the Center for Family Involvement. We're very excited. This is a live interactive chat. We want you all to chime in, make a comment, we'll answer questions, and we want you to be involved. And next, I'm gonna toss it to my colleague, Angela West. It is my pleasure to work with her and introduce her. She is the cultural broker for the Center for Family Involvement for the Asian communities.
Hello, I'm so excited to be here.
Hey everyone, I am so excited to be here.
I'm celebrating the idea with everyone. Celebrate.
And celebrating the ADA with everyone.
I just wanted to share a little bit of our story.
I just wanted to share a little bit about my story.
The ADA was passed when I was in kindergarten.
The ADA was actually passed when I was in kindergarten.
So, because I was included in school, but anything else.
Before that, I wasn't in school or anything else.
And after the passage of the fought to get included in classrooms and the community.
So right after it passed, my family really fought to get me involved in classes, in the classroom, and as well as within the community.
It wasn't easy. It was a struggle to get accepted.
It wasn't easy. It was a struggle to get accepted.
I think even though we still have already work, there's still a lot of work to be done.
That we've done a lot of work. So I think though that we've still done a lot of work, there is still a lot of work that needs to be done.
The ADA has allowed me to develop my personality as a leader.
The ADA has really done a lot to develop. The ADA has really done a lot to develop my personality as a leader.
To the community, I'm not just a person with a disability.
And to the community, I'm not just a person with a disability.
I'm a woman. I'm a faith-filled woman.
I'm a what?
Faith.
I'm a faith-based woman. I'm a faith-based woman.
I'm a worker. I'm a spouse.
I'm a worker. I'm a spouse.
I'm a mother of two cats.
I'm a mother of 2 cats.
And because of the ADA, I can do things to take care of my family.
Because the ADA, I can do.
Things
But because of the ADA, I can do things to help take care of my family.
to leave
to lead and impact future generations.
I'm so excited to meet you. Thank you for the opportunity.
I am so excited to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Angela. That was Angela West, the cultural broker for the Center for Family Involvement. For anyone joining us now, this is the live discussion about how to be a leader as we celebrate the Americans with Disabilities Act 30th anniversary, talking about cultivating leadership among youth with disabilities. We're really excited to be here. Next, we're going to turn it over to Chantel Harris. She is 24 years old, and she already has a lot of experience under her belt being a leader and becoming a leader.
Hello, everybody. My name is Chantel, and I am a youth with disabilities. I worked with I'm Determined for 6 years. Well, I was attending for 6 years, and I became a youth leader in 2017. I had a hard time finding my voice and accepting my disability and who I was in the disability community. I would always think that my disability was a curse and not a blessing, and attending I'm Determined really changed my mind of who I was and accepting me as a person with disabilities. And with I'm Determined, it is a program for youth who have disabilities from the ages of 13 to 21 in the state of Virginia. It is for those who have an IEP, and you go to James Madison University for 2 nights and 3 days, and you're just around other people who have disabilities. You're in a community who is non-judgmental, who is there to build you up and help you find who you are as a person with disabilities. And that program really brought me out of my comfort zone and found the leader in who I was. For me, I wouldn't even want to be a public speaker. I did not want to get out of my shell. I did not want to share my story of what it was like in the school system, fighting for my IEP, and what it was like, how to get into it and be the leader in my IEP instead of my teachers. And I'm Determined truly helped me find my voice. And with them, I have traveled all over Virginia and out of state outside of them, but to another conference for people with disabilities. I have gotten to share my story and let others know that your disability doesn't define who you are. You define your disability. You are a person who has different abilities than somebody else. Don't let that 3-letter word dis in front of ability stop you from doing what God put you on this earth to do, to help others and to share your testimony and to share what you've been through, to help others who are going through kind of the same thing, but not necessarily the same walk. This way you can show others that it's okay to have a disability. You are an amazing person, even those who don't have a disability. And again, with I'm Determined, that program is really, really fascinating. And I encourage anybody who is watching, if you have a child or you know somebody who has a child with a disability who lives in Virginia and is between 13 to 21, please get them involved. Please, please, please. It is an eye-opener, and it will help your child and you come together and blossom into a beautiful flower. And it's made me the public speaker who I am today. And I was blessed enough to be able to be the closing keynote speaker last year for I'm Determined. It was very challenging to speak in front of 250 people for about 45 minutes, but it was very inspirational to share my story and let others know that don't let people see you for your disability, let them see you for you. And I'm very glad that I was able to share my story.
Thank you, Chantel. That's so well said, and it's so true. And this is the perfect time for us to kind of turn to talking to a couple parents. And again, anyone who's joining us, this is a live from Center for Family Involvement and the Center for Disability Leadership about how to be a leader as we celebrate 30 years of the Americans with Disabilities Act. we really want to focus on what it takes to be a leader in the disability community. If you have a disability, we want to cultivate that leadership in youth. And we want to talk about the challenges and the struggles. And I think for a lot of children, adult children as well, sometimes those challenges come actually from their own parents. And that's why it's really important we speak to a couple of parents, because those connections and that empowerment from the parents is so critical. So we're going to start talking to Nikki Brandenberger. She is part of the Center for Family Involvement and also heads our Family to Family network there. Nikki.
Yes, hi, thanks for giving me the opportunity. So I consider myself wearing two hats in the disability advocacy field. And so I'll start with kind of my history. So I was in college when the ADA came about and was studying to actually be a special education teacher. That is my education by trade and where I wanted to go initially as a professional. And so out of college, I began working in the support coordination field, working with parents and families of adults and children with disabilities. And fast forward to 2005, found myself on the other side of it when I had my son, my firstborn, who had to access early intervention services for some developmental delays when he was about 18 months old, was diagnosed with some sensory processing issues. And my world just completely turned on itself. And I found myself trying to understand the difference between being the support coordinator or case manager for my son, because that's what I was used to professionally, to just learning to be a parent for him and love him for who he is and encourage him to reach his full potential. So he is a 15-year-old starting his 10th grade year this fall. And Thomas still struggles with sensory processing stuff, but it is sort of manifested into mental health issues. And so I see myself as an advocate for him, but also really wanting to encourage him to speak up for himself. And we, from a very early age, when Thomas would see the professionals that were supporting him and helping him to be as self-determined as he could, I have always kind of tried to take a step back and let him speak up for himself and explain what's been difficult for him, where his challenges are. And, you know, he sometimes reminds me when I'm pushing too hard and when I need to step back. And so it's been really wonderful to see him grow into the young man he is now. And you know, and I worry right now, just with the circumstances that we're all in with COVID, how that is impacting a lot of people from the mental health perspective. And so I'm really watching closely NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and some of those other organizations and the government to see how they're going to respond to that, because I have a personal vested interest having a child that I'm supporting, you know, with mental health issues and how that affects the whole. But it's just been lovely to watch him grow and into the young adult that he is now. So.
Thank you, Nikki. It is so challenging. And one of the things that makes the Center for Family Involvement and CDL, Center for Disability Leadership, so powerful is that for the CFI, everyone who works there has a loved one with a disability. And CDL, it's all people with disabilities. We live it. No, not only do we work it, but we're living it. So you're joining a live Facebook chat talking about how to be a leader and the challenges and the things that affect us. And now we're going to turn to Flip, who's going to share that very thing, those dynamics of being both a parent and a leader in the disability community.
Thank you, Erin. I am so happy to be here. I absolutely echo everything that has been said so far. The voice of youth leaders and of family members is so very important. We're going to take a little bit of a turn here. So for my daughter, Kiara, and I, the tension hasn't been so much between the two of us as it has been between us and others. We've worked really hard together to develop her self-determination and advocacy skills, and we've got a lot more to do. Our biggest challenge is educating the community to listen to her and follow her lead rather than looking to me for answers. It's also about changing dangerous perspectives that reinforce societal and system level limitations and risks on the individual. like seclusion, restraint, institutionalization, punitive interactions, abuse, neglect, and exploitation. So pardon me, it's a very emotional discussion. To put this into context, Kiara is a 17-year-old with autism, an intellectual disability, epilepsy, anxiety, and a speech impairment. What I'm about to share is not easy, as you can tell, but it's necessary. It'd be selfish and dishonestly complacent if I hid behind my fear, vulnerability, and fear of not realizing the advancements that are to come from those who are speaking up and out and building leadership towards change. Before Kiara turned 2, we were already hearing the message that was echoed or has been echoed on that she can't, she'll never. At about 7, before she had the words to tell someone, she came home from school pulling her neck and crying and screaming. And it took us weeks before we realized that she had been abused at school. Despite several attempts to have her included in general settings, she has continued to be in self-contained classrooms on an isolated wing in the school, where social, work-related, and community opportunities have been nearly absent, along with denied access to family life education. In middle school, I learned that she and her peers were in a class setting of cubicles facing walls and corners. And upon entering high school, we now have a stack of suspension and detention letters. You can't excuses continue while Kiara and I continue to rebut with can and justify how. Even among her medical team, she leads appointments. She knows her meds, what they are for, and is building knowledge of her disabilities, her strengths, and her needs. However, when it came to her period, there was doubt that she could handle it. She was given no chance during her first gynecology appointment, when we were advised to stop her period. The justification that she was among the highest risk population for sexual assault or abuse, and it would be detrimental if she got pregnant as a result of being raped. It wasn't a discussion about building healthy relationships, boundaries, consent, self-esteem, personal hygiene, emotional well-being, and so on. Now we are in the year of considering guardianship, supported decision-making, and alternatives. These mindsets are limiting and dangerous. They are misdirected and focused on Band-Aid solutions rather than addressing the real problems. Earlier this week, I listened to Jim Lebrecht of the film Crip Camp, who made the following comment that I will leave you all with. Until attitudes change, not a lot is going to change. Thank you.
Flip, thank you so much. And opening up and being that honest about what's going on is so powerful and so important, because we're celebrating the ADA, but the fact is we still have such a long way to go. And families face these issues every day. And I think it's important to remember that. What we're gonna do now, this is a kind of a perfect time. Anyone who's watching, I want you to know that you can comment and we will answer your questions. We want you to participate. This is your chance to talk to leaders. This is your chance to talk to parents who are leaders. So just open up, talk to us. We are going to open up now and use this moment to talk to everyone on the panel about what challenges you still face today despite the ADA. And Jack, why don't we start with you?
I support. I think communication challenge.
Personally, I face communication challenges.
Not individual that but community
Not only in the workspace, but in the community.
and regard to my work. We have showed up the black for work.
In regard to my workspace, we have a shortage of direct support workers.
And it is in Christ in the Christ now
And it's beyond the crisis mode.
without support for daily life the goals of the ADA cannot will
Without the supports for daily living, the what of the ADA? The goals of the ADA cannot be realized.
I wanted to with other groups to advocate for health
We need to join with other groups to advocate for healthcare.
in order to make the ADA to work for people with this.
In order to make the ADA truly work for people with disabilities.
That's what's about one valuable to pay in the eight.
This was realized when they were debating the ADA.
I told you after we are still have to
And 30 years after the ADA, we're still having this discussion.
Right on, Jack. We are. Chantel, I mean, you were born while the ADA was already here, but what sort of inequities do you feel as a 24-year-old with a disability?
For me, I found it hard in the school systems. In elementary school, they didn't want to give me the help that I needed, being a person with 4 brain tumors and being blind in one eye and having intellectual disabilities and comprehension issues. They didn't feel the need to want to help me. And that really took a turn on things. I failed kindergarten. They were also finding out about my disability then. I was being in the process of being diagnosed. So they felt I wasn't ready enough to move forward. And in elementary school, it took a while for them to give me the help that I needed. Also having ADHD, sitting there for that long was just not feasible. It was hard. And then in middle school, things got a little bit easier. I started to get the help that I needed. I was in regular-ish classes. I say ish because it was a mixture of kids with disabilities and kids with non-disabilities with the extra teacher to help. And that sort of helped because the class was smaller, so it wasn't too big. It was easier to learn. And I was more worried about being bullied than trying to pass my classes because every day was just, it was hard being made fun of and not really having friends. because they didn't want to take the time to understand my disability and how, yes, it makes me different, but I'm still a human being. I still have feelings. I still want to be around people. And when high school came, that was when I really started to get the most help. All my teachers were always there, always fighting for me, always helping me in any situation I was going through, whether it was school related or relationship wise. And then I was found with, or I was asked to apply for I'm Determined. And that's when I really started to find my voice and want to lead my IEP and fight for what I needed, not what the teachers or my parents thought that I needed. I needed to fight for what I knew that I needed and what was going to benefit me and not what they thought would benefit me. And with that, I think it was my last 2 years of school, I was finally able to lead my IEP. And then I hit college and I was able to voice what I need. And although I can't get all the accommodations that I need because you need written documentation on certain things, and of course, with what we're in right now, that won't work. So it's definitely been challenging at work. Not for the job I'm in now, because it's a center for independent living, so we focus on people with disabilities. But at working as a cashier, it's definitely hard at times because one day I know what I'm doing and I'm doing it perfectly well, and then the next day I go in, it's just like, what do I do? I mess up. It's very hard to get wrapped in your disability and what it causes you. But on the bright side, it's what has made us who we are today. And with the ADA, we still do have a long way to go, but I know every day with the disability community and the voices that are being shared today and beyond today is really going to make a difference and change. Like Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world.
Right on, Chantel. Right on. And I think you you touched on something as we turn to Angela now, where we think about the workplace and how much ADA is done for it, but yet still today we're still seeing sheltered workshops. We're still seeing places where they people with disabilities are all in one category, or you have coffee shops catered to hire just people with disabilities, and that's not enough. That's not what the ADA was meant to do, and it's not good enough. And I know, Angela, you live it, so why don't you tell us about how the ADA is impacted?
Yeah, I'm really big on disability and identity.
I'm really big on disability and identity
Yeah.
and not being your identity. I'm really big on disability not being your identity.
Yeah, my wish for the world to see me as a young woman who's successful.
So my wish is that for the world to see me as a young woman who is successful.
That has life full of hopes and dreams.
That has a life full of hopes and dreams.
One day we'll have a house and kids to take over whatever we want.
I mean, that one day that we'll have a house and kids, just that typical of what everyone wants.
Want in their life.
Or may not want in their life.
Particular access to the.
Just to have access to that.
I think what Flip said earlier.
I think about what Flip said earlier.
Access is completely different than attitude.
Access is completely different than attitude.
So, for example, I might be
example, I might be able to get into a restaurant.
Go on a date with David.
Go on a date with David,
Get all dressed up.
all dressed up,
Kiss in the car that is accessible.
and then get
In the car that is accessible.
and then get in a car that's accessible.
Shortly to the restaurant.
So I go to the restaurant.
I call before this to double check if I can get in.
I call before just to double check if I can get in.
Everything is good to go.
Everything's good to go.
Sit down,
Down,
get the menu,
get the menu.
and the waitress comes over and I talk to me.
And the waitress comes over and doesn't talk to me
So, or treat me like a 3-year-old.
or treats me like a 3-year-old.
And David, oh, dear.
Asks David, what do I want to eat?
So, hello, how are you?
Hello, I'm right here.
Oh, yeah, yeah, and I know, well, I've accepted that, and I've made it funny because it's our personality.
I mean, I've accepted that and I make it funny because that's just my personality.
But I don't want to.
But there are days where I don't want to.
I just want to be. And the girl that's living her life.
Angela, the girl that's just living her life.
So, attitude is the biggest barrier that I'm trying to overcome.
So attitude is the biggest barrier that I'm trying to overcome.
And sometimes the attitude is me.
And sometimes the attitude is me.
Well, when I go to a restaurant, I'm expected to be treated like a kid.
When I go to a restaurant, I'm expected that I'll be treated like a kid.
And then when they don't, oh my goodness.
And when they don't, I'm like, oh my goodness.
But and the attitude reflects that I know that I don't expect that.
The attitude, I don't expect that.
Yeah.
The attitude, I don't expect that.
And that reflects on the person that is serving me.
And that reflects on the person that is serving me.
We are the attitude I know and the heart sometimes.
So we all just have to get our attitude lined up, and that's hard sometimes.
Because I'm gonna have that day. You're gonna have that day.
Because I'm gonna have a bad day, you're gonna have a bad day.
But we had to overcome it.
But we have to overcome it,
And make a real difference.
and that'll make a real difference.
Angela, you're so right. And it's just shocking that attitude is almost more so than laws. We're not going to change anything until we change attitudes. I want to be mindful of the time. We're going to go through this live until 1 o'clock. And again, this is How to Be a Leader. We're celebrating 30 years of ADA. This is Center for Family Involvement, along with the Center for Disability Leadership. I want to transition a little bit. There's so many questions I have. Someone did chime in from Loudon, and thank you, Jennifer, saying, that even in public school, families aren't receiving health or sex education that's appropriate, and it's so common to have that issue. And it's something just that we need to change. And talking about being a leader, how can you be a leader when you're not even getting the education we need? So I'm actually curious, both Flip and Nikki, you work in this field, we work in this field, you support families, you help others support families. So how can you support families to cultivate new leaders? What do you do in your work, and what do you do in your personal life to do that?
So hearing Angela tell her story, the mama bear side of me gets angry for her and wants to come in and rescue. And I had to sit back and listen and remind myself that it is a balance that I think parents find themselves, well, first of all, I think I see the relationship as a triangle. So you have your, the youth or the person with a disability at the top of the triangle, and then one side of the one corner of the triangle are the medical professionals, the teachers, the professionals working with that person. And then you have the parents. And so there's this triangular relationship where everyone's involved and part of it. And from the parent perspective, I'm always trying to find that balance where you can allow your youth or family member with a disability to have dignity of risk and make decisions on their own, but weighing safety and knowing when to step back. And that's always been a struggle, I think, a lot of families deal with from when their children are really young and you begin making decisions about food and things they want to eat, when they're 4 and 5, and trying to find that balance of risk and safety. And then when they become adults and you hear about, what Angela's still struggling with. And that's the real fear that parents, that is behind that parent that might seem a little controlling sometimes, or maybe seems a little frustrated when they come to the table at an IEP, because the mama bear side and the daddy, side is to protect. And so I think it's so important to mentor. And I think mentor other parents. Parents don't know what they don't know. And sometimes they maybe have never been exposed to other parents that have been able to find the balance a little bit better. And I think that's what makes the Center for Family Involvement so special, because we are all parents of children and family members with disabilities. We are staff that have disabilities ourselves. We have that lived shared experience, and we've been doing it a while, and we have educated ourselves and learned the best way we can to be good advocates. And so sometimes I think mentoring is such an important thing for younger parents or parents that are just getting started. And because the reality is the advocacy is lifelong. And Sheila could probably tell you, as Jack's mother, her advocacy for her son has evolved from when he was a child and now he's an adult. It's evolved quite a bit, but it's not easy. And there's, you just don't, it doesn't just come to you. They don't come with a book, your children. And so learning from others and sharing your story is so important. And so I find that the first step is when a parent that I'm working with is struggling with finding that balance of letting go and not being frustrated and trying to be an effective advocate, is listen and validate their story. Don't dismiss anything that has happened, but validate it. Then you can share your story and say, well, this is what worked for me. And, and this is what I found effective. And it really can be very useful. It's a journey to get parents there. It doesn't happen overnight, but with the right parent to parent mentoring, I think that's how we all get better at it. And then we end up with, adults like Jack and Angela who are out there and Chantel making a difference in the world. And so that's just my perspective from a parent.
Right on, Nikki. And like Darian said, people with disabilities have the right to be treated just like anybody else, because everyone's people. We're all people. We are all humans. And anyone, I would love to hear answers to the questions we're asking in the comments, because this isn't just about us. This is a conversation. Flip, please. I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Sure. So just taking that question of how do you help other parents? How do you help other youth to become leaders and to encourage leadership out of their children? I absolutely echo what Nikki said, and to tie this to the question about sexual health, family life education. I mean, it's part of it is doing like what I did, realizing not everything is okay, and that there are still challenges, barriers, gaps, issues. And so what can we do, and what does that impact? And a lot of it goes back to educating. So if we think about family life education, it's not just about sex. It is about building the self-esteem of the person. It is about taking care of yourself with hygiene. It is about relationships. It's about knowing how to say no, what is okay, what is not okay, consent and boundaries and all of that. So just realizing that and you're right, Jennifer, it's not just my story with my daughter, Kiara. This is one of my particular areas of interest. And it's a bigger problem. It's not just us, it's many. In fact, when I realized that other middle schoolers that were older than Kiara, or I'm sorry, younger than Kiara, started coming home with the permission slips about family life education, and we never got one, that's when I realized, oh, she's not being offered this opportunity. And that's when I walked into the school and said, confronted the issue. Unfortunately, I was met with, what? You want her to know? Yes, I do. The education, like I said, is far beyond just sexuality and your fears. It is about building your advocacy, knowing what you want, knowing how to say no, all those things that I just said. So good thing is also on that education part, there were bills passed this session on family life education and IEPs. The DOE has invested in this issue. And so I'm looking forward to continue the work that needs to be done. There's a lot ahead of us, but right now, please know that there are projects going on. The Department of Education, DOE, is well aware of the issue and they are confronting it. As a family member, what I will say is it's great that they're trying to write curriculums, that they are looking for best practices in introducing family life education appropriately into IEPs, but we have a lot of education on families' behalves to realize that this is necessary and to say yes.
Right on, Flip. It's so important, and it's so much work that we still have to do. I love this. I always have like so many ideas of all these things I want to talk about, and we have time for one more question. And I think that, we could talk about the challenges forever, but I'd really like to sort of end on something positive and end on something that might be really useful. So I want everyone to just talk about the moment where you found your voice, that moment where you knew this that you were going to lead, and what sort of triggered it. Jack, I think we'll start with you.
I put the leadership. I figured my yeah.
I was fortunate to have leadership opportunities when I was young.
That will great mentor.
And I had some really great mentors.
When I'm without disability.
With and without disabilities.
And I've been fortunate to mentor others with disabilities.
And I've been very fortunate to mentor others with disabilities.
Stay over your mentorship is real key.
And as Nikki said earlier, I think mentorship is really key.
I bet for people with disabilities and time.
Both for people with disabilities and their families.
Who fail on their leadership.
To build up their leadership skills.
It puts them all systemic.
Either personally or systemically.
Thank you for joining us for the best book.
Thank you all for joining us for the Facebook Live.
I concur. This is very fun. Angela, how about you? What was that moment for you?
Okay, this is going to sound like a shameless plug.
So this is gonna sound like a shameless plug.
It's not where I met Dana Ayabu.
So it's not, but when I met Dana Yarbrough,
Who's good?
see the first part,
Who's good? I blew
who is currently my employer,
He got pushed me out of my comfort zone.
so she kind of pushed me out of my comfort zone.
If you enter this church, I used to record.
What was the first part?
I know this is kind of ironic.
So I know this is kind of ironic, but I actually used to be quiet.
I know, hard to believe.
I know, hard to believe. I see you laughing.
I was very shy and quiet.
I mean, but I was very shy and quiet.
And then you were like, okay, and you were like ridiculous. Come on, and get your skills up.
So Dan was kind of like, if you want to make a difference, come on, get your skills up.
And he walked with me for the last 6 years.
And she has walked with me for the past 6 years.
And told me when I feel I tend to become quiet while scared.
And she still has guided me even when I currently tend to become quiet or maybe scared.
No, maybe not know how to deal with the issue.
Or maybe not know how to deal with an issue.
I think that's really important to realize you'll never at the top level.
And I think it's important to realize that you're never at the top level
There is no top level.
because there really is no top level.
You just keep becoming better and better, and your skills
And you just should just keep becoming better and better in your skills.
and your direction in life could change.
And your direction in life could change.
I do want to end on something part.
I would do want to end on something for.
My part.
So I do want to end on something for my part.
Just because you have a disability doesn't mean your whole life or your work has to do with this disability.
So just because you have a disability doesn't necessarily mean that your whole life or your work has to have something to do with the
You can
disability.
be an artist. You can be a writer.
You can be an artist, you can be a writer,
You can be the person that work at the restaurant.
you could be a person that works at a restaurant.
Or you can be a CEO of a video company.
You can see a multi-million-dollar company.
Don't let this disability define who you are or your dreams.
So don't let the disability define who you are or your dreams.
Right on, Angela. Absolutely. Chantel, how about you?
So I found my voice and decided that I wanted to be a leader was when I was presented with the opportunity to give the closing keynote speech for I'm Determined last year. I kind of knew that I wanted to become a public speaker, but when I finally was on stage in front of all those people and seeing the audience cry and stand up and participate in my speech, at one point, I was given the opportunity for the audience to stand up and speak. I just knew then that this is what I want to do. This is who I am. This is what I was created for. to share my story and help others see their potential with and without a disability. And so at that moment, after I finished and after I had people tell me that their son or daughter is happy that I was up there speaking and I made a difference in their life, at that moment, not at that moment, but like a couple weeks later, I ended up changing my career from early childhood education to communication specialization. So now I am majoring in becoming a professional public speaker, all because of I'm Determined, helping me find my voice as a person with a disability, advocating for anybody really. It doesn't have to just be the disability community, but everybody in general. And so that's how I found my voice. And I know you will too. Just keep on shining. You'll blossom soon.
Absolutely beautiful, Chantel. We really only have 2 minutes left, but I do want to hear from Flip and Nikki on this. I want to know that moment where you first saw your child advocate for yourself, or you first realized how important that was.
With my son, it's been many moments, like several, but I think of something that happened this past year that put it at another level in terms of advocating not only for himself, but for other people with disabilities. He's always been very good about that. And anybody that's marginalized, he's always been a huge advocate for them. But there was an incident where in school where he held a substitute teacher accountable for not allowing the modifications that a child had for 504 in the classroom, not honoring them. And he held the teacher accountable, even if it meant he got into trouble, holding her accountable. And it was just one of those moments where I was like, oh my gosh, Thomas, there's probably a better way you could have, held the teacher accountable. But I was proud of him for the bigger picture of it. He was, he understood that this other child had some accommodations in the classroom that were not being met. And so I remember it was a really proud moment for me as his mom. So.
Yeah, very similar, many moments. But what I can say is it took Kiara a long time to find the words. We're still working on them and expanding that. But hearing her say, I don't want your help. I don't need your help. I can do this. And saying, okay, go for it. You got this. Her being able to sit in medical appointments and direct the nurses as soon as she comes in. Like, what's your name? All right. You need to check my blood pressure. You need to see how tall I am. How much do I weigh? What's my temperature? She directs them. And then we get into the office and she knows, like I said earlier in my more emotional piece, she knows her meds. She knows her disability. She knows what they're for. And she's going to tell you. So being able to move past behaviors as communication and being able to use those words is awesome. And I hope that our I'm Determined experiences continue to grow. We tried that this past fall, and there was a lot of Mom Flip Gray, Mom Flip Gray. She did not want to stay with folks. But again, it's that pushing her, having her stretch, I think was one of the things, challenging her to use her voice and speak up for herself.
Thank you, Flip. And I'm going to just put us all on the screen as we wrap this up. I just want to know if anyone from our panel wants to add anything.
I wanted to say that I was at Chantel's moment that she just described when she was given the speech, and there was a palpable sense in the room when she got up, because I had talked to Chantel before and I knew she'd been kind of nervous about it, but there was you could feel it in the room, the energy shifted. So I was there for that powerful moment. It was pretty powerful. It was awesome.
Fantastic. Well, I just want to say, thank you to everyone. Angela, did you want to add something?
I just want to say I'm so thankful for Chantel and the younger leaders.
I also want
Thank you to Chantel.
I also want to say thank you to Chantel and for the younger leaders.
You guys, I'm getting my hair. I'm getting my hair.
Because I'm getting gray hair. I want to go to Hawaii and retire. I can keep it. So I need you to keep it loud and proud.
So, I look forward to watching you. I look forward to watching you.
So I look forward to watching you.
I love that, Angela. I love it. I think if you're in Hawaii, can we all go visit you? Make sure there's an extra room, okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think we're all getting a few extra gray hairs with this coronavirus crisis, which is a whole other topic. I want to thank everyone. And I think actually Darian Todd's been listening, and he made a comment, and I want to end on that. And he said, the most important thing is that we are good enough. And I think that's right on. I think that we don't necessarily have to be leaders speaking at the General Assembly or anywhere. I think just living our lives and that's enough. Being who we are and being proud of it and getting through the day, sometimes that's enough. So yeah, thank you. And goodbye. Should we do the quintessential wave?